Welcome to Catholic Mom Talks. Happy Sunday, everybody. Today, I wanted to throw out some ideas for you. And I was thinking about how the Food and Drug Administration always gives us warnings on certain drugs, right? Always on our TV commercials, right? Well, if you take this medication, there are possible side effects, right? Your legs can fall off, all these horrible things, right? Well, the church is kind of doing the same thing, okay? And one of the saints said the church is not a courtroom for souls. They're not sitting back saying, well, if you commit this sin, we're going to shame you and you're a horrible person. Actually, they're doing the exact opposite. They're saying, come home, okay, to a safe place, a safe refuge, sanctuary. Like in the olden days, in the medieval nights, they'd offer the church will be a sanctuary. Like if you could go hide in the church and you'd be safe from your persecutors, right? Well, it's kind of the same thing. The church is proclaiming what Christ already instituted, foundation, right? They're also saying that Christ instituted a road. And it's a road that's a safe road. It's a road that's going to keep us in constant union with Christ. It's going to keep our life in union with Christ. It's going to protect us from falling off the path, okay? And from the enemy, really. Protect us from the enemy, okay? Well, how is the church going to do that, right? Well, she's going to, number one, proclaim Christ, show you how to stay in union with Christ, okay? The church also teaches about sin. And the reason for teaching about sin is not so that you can be condemned, but it's to warn you. It's to warn you of things that are dangerous, right? And we have two types of sin. There's mortal sin and venial sin. Where does the church get that from? Well, that is in Mark 5, and I believe it's verse 16 to 18. Please, you might have to correct me on this. But it talks about in Scripture about certain kinds of sin. He said there's some sin that's kind of like, it's mild, it's not deadly. And then it refers to other sin that is deadly sin. And deadly sin destroys life in the soul. Now, deadly sin or mortal sin is actually us choosing to do something that will push God out of the soul. Okay? Now, God never leaves us, ever. We choose. We choose to leave. And that is the gift of free will. This is what separates us actually from our Christian brothers and sisters. A lot of denominations. Catholics do not believe that once you are saved, you are saved. We believe God has saved us. Yes, by his blood he has saved us. By his resurrection he has saved us. He has given us safe passage to God, okay? But we at any time can refuse the gift of salvation. We can reject Christ and his gift. We can choose to go the other way. And that is the gift of free will. That is your Eve and your Adam. They could, they had the choice to choose God or not. Okay, that is what Jesus is talking about, and I believe it's in Mark 4, verse maybe 47 to 48. Mark 9, 47 to 48. And when he talks about, Jesus says, if your eye causes you to sin, he says, cut it out. Because it would be better for you to go through your life without your eye than to be thrown into Gehenna. So in other words, that person has to choose, right? Jesus is saying you have a choice. You have a choice to leave your eye in your head, commit the sin, or you have a choice to take it out. But if you leave it in your head and you continue to do this, this is going to be the result of the action. So basically what the church is saying with sin is that it's going to have an effect on your soul. Okay, certain sins have different effects on the soul. Certain sins destroy grace in your life. It takes you away from God. Sin is dangerous. The reason why sin is dangerous is because once you've made a decision to leave God, okay, and you die in that state without making peace. Now mind you, you can make peace, in your heart, and you tell God you're really sorry, and you promise to go to confession as soon as you can. God's going to forgive you. But you need to go to confession for mortal sin to be in full union with God again. Okay? And that's because Jesus instituted it. That's another scripture. Okay? But anyway, you can make peace immediately. But if you were to die in the state of mortal sin and be not conscious, for example, you're in a car accident and you died, you would lose your soul. You would lose your soul. Whatever state you are in your relationship with God at the time you die is what's going to merit whatever is going to come. Now, Jesus very specifically said there was a Gehenna. Well, Gehenna was a trash dump on the side of town when Jesus was alive, and that's where they burned the trash. Jesus was referring to hell. So basically, hell is not a place where God is trying to destroy us. It is a choice. It's a place where we choose to be separated from God. It is our choice. It is our choice. The real hell is not necessarily that, we're going to suffer eternity like that, but the real hell is being separated from God for eternity. The real hell is being separated from Christ now and the present. Not loving him, not knowing him, not living a life of joy and unity with him. That is hell. When we choose those things, we choose not to have peace because Christ is peace. We choose not to have real love because Christ is real love. We choose not to know who we really are because who we really are is in the person of Christ. Okay, so these treasures, these gifts, love, peace, joy, contentment, fulfillment, life, right? The joys of real life are going to be robbed from us if we choose to go the other way. Okay? Now, mind you, you can get back at any time. He's always waiting. He's the father and the prodigal son. But he's not going to push himself on us, right? He's not going to demand we follow him. Okay? He's not going to do anything to usurp our will. That is the gift. The gift is free will. Can we break covenant with God? Yes, we can. Can we turn our backs on God? Absolutely. Can we lose our salvation? Absolutely. Losing your salvation is choosing not for God to be God in your life, but choosing for yourself to be God in your life. Now, these are things to think about. This is what the church is trying to tell us. The church is not condemning us. They're saying, watch out, there's a cliff. Okay? Something dangerous is in front of you. If you go this way, the enemy will have you. If you go this way, it's very easy for you to be consumed by the enemy. If you choose this way, you will belong to the enemy. Now, that is a terrifying reality, but that is the truth. If you choose mortal sin, you give yourself to the enemy. And actually, I didn't even know this. And I was listening to Father Carlos Martins, who is an exorcist for the church. I mean, he's legit. He's through the Vatican. I mean, the Vatican has sent him out to teach about what real exorcism is. When you are not baptized, you are, number one, willed by God. God wills you. But when you are not baptized, you do not belong to God yet. You belong to the enemy in the world. That's why baptism is so important. You are ransomed back. God takes you back for his own. Okay, that's the sin of Adam and Eve. The sin of Adam and Eve brought in original sin into the world. Okay, so what they did was pretty horrific, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm all over the place for you guys and it's hard to follow. But basically what I'm trying to say, and a short recap is, the church is not condemning you. The church is welcoming you. The church wants you back. The church wants you safe in the arms of Christ. The church is calling you back to the arms of Christ. The church is not the enemy. The church is providing the way for you to come, right? All about our relationship with Christ. We can't go to God because we're afraid of hell. We have to go to God because we're afraid of being separated from him. That is love. You must have courage, though, because you're going to have to break away from everything that separates you from God.